Ted Rusch, welcome to the Pre-Construction Podcast.
Thanks, Gareth. Good to be on the show with you this morning.
I've been trying to catch you in advancing pre-construction. We were like passing ships in the day. We were
That's
at advancing pre-construction San Diego. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I loved it. It's a great conference. So much great content with the speakers, but also just to see the emerging tech out in the exhibit hall is just is fantastic.
That blew my mind, Ted, honestly. And I
Absolutely.
know we're going to get into that about the innovation that we have in pre-construction later on. But to me, it was encouraging because the amount of people from, I think it was Dallas, Phoenix, Colorado, Denver, Colorado, and then it's just gone boom, boom, boom. It's almost doubled in
hmm
size every year, which is
Yep.
good. Cool. So anybody doesn't know you, Ted, give us a quick recap of your career so far.
Yeah, so 26-year career veteran. First 10 or so years of my career moved back and forth between project management and estimating. Two driving factors probably pushed me to be a career estimator. One was the financial crisis in 2008 to 2012. I thankfully had the pre-construction experience to hold on to a job and do that full time. And then having kids, having that predictable schedule, and nobody comes to you and says, "We need you to move to the middle of nowhere and build a project for 3 years" when you're in estimating. So we needed the I needed the job at the time, and it made sense for the family, and I've grown to love it.
Love it. And talk to me about the first decade quickly. That on-site experience. I mean, all my clients turn around and say, "Don't send me anybody that hasn't been on site." Now, there's unbelievable estimators that I work with who have learned more recently and probably in the last decade through models and through experience and through learning and visually learning and going and visiting site. But how important was your on-site experience?
It was great for me. I don't know that there's one golden rule for everybody, but I think seeing at least two of the three primary sides of the industry makes a lot of sense to learn how things come together. And conversely, I'm hesitant about a senior PM or a project executive that hasn't spent some time in pre-construction. Are they going to understand how that number comes together? Are they going to understand how to digest it and manipulate it in the field and manage it and buy it out? So I think any type of well-rounded experience is leading you to be a better construction professional, regardless of which side of the industry you end up in the long run.
Absolutely. The rotations are key, and especially early on, if
Yep.
you can do them. Don't get me wrong. I think and I think we're going to talk about the challenge of attracting people from other industries and attract young people into the industry. It's if you've got an idea or perception in your head when you're leaving college that you want to be in the field, if somebody turns around and says to you, "No, I want you to be in pre-con or estimating for a year," and that kind of like almost puts them off, then we've got to be conscious of that. But at some stage in their career, I think you're right. The rotation has got to happen, whether they
Sure.
take a project from start right through to end.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it falls on us as pre-construction professionals to provide them with a good experience.
Yeah,
If you put somebody in our group and tell them they're going to count toilet partitions for a year, it's not going to be a great experience, and they're going to go and they're going to share that experience with their colleagues out in the field. If we bring them in and challenge them and stretch them and put them in front of owners and do the things that make pre-construction great, it's going to be a good experience. That doesn't mean every one of them is going to want to be a lifer. But if we get 1 out of 10 that say a few years down the road, you know what, I've got a family, I'm tired of, an hour-long commute or living out of town, and I really like that experience I had in pre-construction a few years ago, maybe that's a career move I could make, then now we're off and running. Now we've got a pipeline, and that's ultimately the goal with that for me.
yeah, exposure 100%. I tell you what we'll do. Let's jump into that now before we get into the tech evolution. Let's jump into the kinds of people that we're trying to attract and getting young people knowing how brilliant pre-construction and estimating is. What's your thoughts on that, Ted?
Yeah, I think we've got to just change the narrative starting in college or even pre-college. I think that the construction programs at the universities tend to attract somebody who's got the I'm an outdoorsy type. I don't want to be in an office all day mentality. And we might be overselling that vision a little bit of what a project engineer, an APM, and even a PM are really doing day to day. And conversely, we're probably underselling what an estimator does, or a pre-construction engineer, pre-construction manager do day to day. The old cliche of the grizzled old guy, huffing cigarettes in a corner office with the door closed, crunching numbers and spreadsheets all day doesn't exist anymore. We're at the forefront of the technology revolution in the industry. You're going to get in front of owners in a more meaningful way, much faster in pre-construction. I hate to oversell it, but the tip of the spear is a better analogy to me than the old number cruncher with the green visor on. And we've got to sell that. And that's on us as a pre-construction industry to do that. We need to be pushing to get into the schools, meeting kids at job fairs early, not as a senior when they're coming out and they've kind of already made up their mind what they want to do. One of the things that I push for is get into college classes and go teach a class. Reach out to a professor in your community. They'd love to take a day off and go play golf while you teach a class, or sit in a corner and listen to you talk. That's the easiest sell that we've got. But just getting in front of people and really giving the true picture of what we do is critical for developing that person. And the type of person, I don't think there is a pre-construction type. I think that the same things that make a good project manager, diligence, intellectual curiosity, um, hard work, a good work ethic, great culture fits. It's the same person. It's just which side of the ball are you playing on?
Yeah, I like the high school thing. I like what you were saying about we've got to set the seed early enough because you got to remember, I mean, back in the day in financial services or IT, when it was the real sexy industry to get in, they were children of maybe two teachers that completely changed the narrative or changed the history of that family. So we've got to get in there and do that now about construction,
Mhm.
especially if their parents aren't in construction or have never thought about construction. How you do that is what you said is unbelievable technology to show them this is what you work with on a day-to-day basis and this is how sexy it can be. It's not just hard hats and steel toes.
Yeah, agree 100%. It's selling the reality of what we do as the face of the company in a lot of ways. And really, it's just the first phase of construction. Some of our more advanced projects, we're spending 50% of the project pre-construction's involved between early pricing, early release trades, confirmation of final pricing. We're involved for a year plus on major projects.
Yeah, 100%. There's so much to do, so many crucial decisions to be made to make sure that the project's set up for success. Funny you mentioned there about getting tech into the schools. I was chatting to Johnny Magzell over at for Toggle AI over in San Diego, and he said that they're now getting universities reaching out to them, looking at getting their technology into the schools and showing kids how to use it. I mean, how amazing would that be for a general contractor like you, having somebody come out of college that has used the software that you use?
Absolutely. And they're going to be teaching us.
Yeah.
I spoke with somebody just this week and told them your generation is going to lead this charge. I can get up to speed on it and I can get competent on these systems and I like doing that. But it's not the intuitive day in, day out, the way I live my life like it is for people coming out of school now. So they've got a huge opportunity to really reset the narrative of how this industry runs and be leaders from a very, very early stage in their career.
Good. So one thing I've been shouting about, and it kind of plays into this as well, Ted, is to me, and I see it every day, speaking with the largest to the smallest general contractors all over the US, the middle management within those companies is crucial. They've got to have the open-minded growth mindset that's required to be able to allow these new people to change if change is needed or to bring new ideas to the fore.
Yeah, it's a almost a cliche, but it's real. We need the people that are 20, 25-year veterans and maybe even the ones that are closing in on the end of their career to be teaching the technical skills and the ins and outs and the things you look for in scope. While convert to our younger associates, while conversely, those younger associates are teaching that middle management generation and the people who are looking retirement in the eye, how to adapt to the technology and how to utilize it. It's not a teacher student relationship anymore. It's really a colleague to colleague, peer to peer training relationship now.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest fear for people just leaving the industry, saying 5 years. What's the point? Why would I even need to learn this in 5 years? I think there's got to be an acceptance if that is the mindset, and to set up like a reverse mentorship kind of program.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
if you do not want to do it this way, show the kids the way you used to do it, and explain why you used to do it like that, and then they can kind of get that understanding, and then bring that understanding into the way that technology that they're using.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting, it's fascinating. But to me, the middle management is crucial. If you don't have that young, open-minded set, then it can be really really difficult. Let's talk now tech innovation or evolution. 26-year veteran. Tell me what you've seen and how excited are you about the tech revolution?
I'm thrilled about it. I feel like I came in at the exact right time. I did earthwork takeoffs, drawing a 10-foot by 10-foot grid, hand penciling in elevations to where we're on the cusp of AI being able to do that cut fill and nail it for us now, and extrapolate that across every trade. I'm a huge fan of Excel. I tell people that if you know 60% of what Excel is capable of, you could probably launch the space shuttle with it. I mean, it is such a powerful tool. But the problem with Excel is it looks like Excel.
Yeah.
And no matter how you do it, it looks like Excel because there are so many people who are so good at it. We've really stretched the capabilities of it. So to be moving past that and moving into programs that are construction specific and sometimes even pre-construction specific, but offer that balance between open, collaborative, everybody on the team can jump in here and participate, but also balance that with the presentation and the visual that we may get 5 minutes in front of a CFO or a CEO to explain a nine-figure budget. I can't give them a login to a system and say, "Hey, go in here and you can play around." They don't have time for that. They don't want to do that. I need to give them a snapshot of where we are, and it's got to be visual, it's got to pop, and it's got to be make sense. So seeing the industry drive towards those types of solutions is really, really exciting.
Yeah, that I like what you're saying there about that because we're all visual people. How do you go about that? I mean, you mentioned, and we're going to get into to data and historical data in a little bit, but how do you do that? How do you present something that you've worked on for months in 10, 15 minutes, and give them just enough detail that they're amazed by it, but if they ask the question, you're able to go into the real granular detail.
Yeah, we're fortunate in that we work with a lot of repeat clients, as I'm sure many of the people that you speak with do. It's about one having a sense of what's important to somebody, and facilities or day-to-day operations cares a lot about shutdowns, cares a lot about staff and customer or patient or whatever your end client is, safety and their experience. Somebody on the finance side just wants to know the budget's up $1 million, but we added $1.5 million worth of scope through these 10 items. And this is all bringing value to your project. So it's about to me, it's knowing your audience is the biggest thing, and being able to be bold enough and confident enough to whittle away the information that doesn't matter, and present it in a way that drives the point home. Because to your point, there's a lot of information out there, and making the things that matter pop is a big challenge. It's difficult.
Brilliant. And if you've got a client, you mentioned they're kind of playing to the crowd. If you've got a client that turns around to you, Ted, and goes, you know what? Top priority for me is something like sustainability. I mean, obviously, numbers and all of that is really important, schedule, time, cost. But what if they said sustainability? What's your key? And to be able to have that presentation, or to be able to bring up that presentation from previous projects,
Sure.
how difficult is that?
I think the key is the earlier that you understand the value proposition for your client or your design partners, the easier it is to adapt to those kinds of things. Um, Sustainability is important to us on all of our projects, as it is to the industry as a whole. We can certainly speak to it. But if I go into a meeting with C-level people with a client, and the lead principal architects, thinking I'm going in there to talk about staff safety and the budget, and it pivots to we want to talk about sustainability, and some other goal, and I'm not prepared for that, then shame on me for not understanding what's important to that client. Now, we all get caught every now and then, and you have to know your project well enough to be able to adapt to those things. But it's really about the conversations that happen outside of that boardroom meeting, understanding the values of your client, both from a global perspective, but also from the people that you're dealing with, which is typically going to be a construction manager, facilities manager type with a jump in every now and then from somebody at a C-suite level.
Love it. Brilliant. And as you say, it's communication. I get asked it all the time. The clients that are looking for the technical expertise, they're dwindling. They need people that can communicate properly and have the right attitude to be able to
Yes,
learn and use technology. The technical stuff, yes, a foundation degree, maybe a few years on the site, but the other ones are the soft skills are becoming more and more important. And I think that's another thing, just to go back to the attracting young people. I think that's the message that we've got to get out to the high school people and even the graduates is don't feel that construction will overwhelm you. People are always open to teaching you. If you've got the soft
absolutely.
skills and a little bit of technical understanding, you can learn so much and grow so fast within Precon.
Yeah, my first superintendent on project right out of college, I made a mistake probably once a week out there, and he would come in. He was old school superintendent. He'd slam the door. I could hear his boots stomping. My heart would sink. He'd rip open my door, yell at me, go stomp back out, and then I could hear those boots stop, and he would come walk back in. He's like, "Okay, come on, let's go. I'm gonna show you why this was a problem. I'll show you what you could have done better."
Brilliant.
Um, and that was a fantastic way to learn. You took your butt whooping a little bit, but then you had the arm around you to go out and coach you and teach you and show you why, from a superintendent's perspective, in his case, whatever mistake of the day it was impacting the job and how they were going to resolve it. So it was a great learning experience. I agree
I
100% about that.
You know this yourself, Ted. You never learn anything from a project that goes 100% well. You only learn from your mistakes. So let's get back to tech now, the evolution. Talk to me about your tech stack. What impressed you most about the technology at San Diego? Maybe a new function, a new tech function. Where are you at with it?
Yeah, so first part, our tech stack, we are Sage users. I'm very optimistic about some of the things that they're doing to move the ball down the field. Most of our estimators use OST for takeoff. I tend to use Bluebeam because at this point of my career, the takeoff I'm doing is more conceptual, gross square foot type stuff, not detailed, and that works just fine for me. We use Firmus, Beam, and Join are kind of our new wave tech that we're using. And those have been great fits. We're constantly evaluating the market. I think you and I have talked earlier that maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that Advancing Pre-Construction conference became really a tech expo with some great teaching content alongside of it. And we spend, I would say, 50% of our time doing uh, evaluations and having discussions with some of those software vendors. Really excited about what's coming in the market. I'm a big proponent of anything that makes the pre-construction workflow more seamless.
Brilliant. Yeah, and
Uh,
it's funny you said that, Ted, because we're all familiar with Sage. Well, we should be. If Sage, Join. If anybody doesn't know Join, I've done two episodes with Andrew, this founder, and OST and Bluebeam. Talk to me about Firmus and Beam. Not too familiar with those guys.
yeah, so Firmus is a cool AI-driven document scrub software. So it will find conflicts between, say, your architectural plans and your plumbing plans. Their classic example, I think, is that you've got an 8-inch plumbing pipe going through vertically through a 6-inch wall. Doesn't work, right? The idea is to identify those conflicts and those clashes as early as possible in the design process and eliminate budget increases at CD or DD level when those things come to light in a more traditional manner. It's been a great tool for us. We've sold it, and our clients have really. I mean, I've had 2 clients that have stopped presentations and said, "Hold on, I want to dig in on this and understand this better." Um,
Brilliant.
we have made a point of selling it to our design architect partners that this is not a threat to you. This is not us doing a gotcha and that we're going to get you in a meeting. It's intended to be collaborative. We're going to go through this with you. And really, we feel like there's probably going to whittle down a list of I think, Firmus calls them issues from, let's call it 100 to maybe 5 that make sense to go into an RFI. We can figure out 95 by ourselves, but those five are maybe showstoppers, maybe not, but they're going to make the project go smoother from a budget perspective from an earlier stage.
Yeah, those
Uh,
five need to be discussed. But I love it. Yeah. So
yeah,
would that be a competitor of Document Crunch? Some similar.
I think so. Document Crunch in its initial iteration was more of a contract review software. And I haven't kept up with them quite as much as some other softwares, but it's the same mentality, right? It's a scrub of the document with some intelligence behind it to help you understand at an early stage conflicts and finding those resolutions before we get to sitting on go and now we've got a budget problem issue. So been a great tool for us, and it's really has resonated in the market with our owners and our design partners.
Brilliant.
Um, Beam is an AI based quantity survey software. We've used that on a lot of our smaller projects where maybe we don't have the staff on that project to do full blown takeoffs as a check. It's been powerful. To be frank, I think we're still figuring out how to use it and how to best utilize it. But certainly feel like we need to be on the front wave of the AI takeoff quantity surveying because it's that revolution is if not here already is certainly coming quickly.
Brilliant. Love it. Thanks for the overview of those. I mean, that's
Sure.
the beauty of advancing advancing pre-construction. But sometimes the beauty of that is you have to wait a year before you hear about these things. So if we can discuss them on here,
Yeah.
can ping somebody's idea, they want to get on to Firmus and Beam, it'd be great. Talk to me now about data. I know it's almost a passion project of yours, historical data, using it, utilizing it. There's so much of it. Where are you at in the data journey?
Yeah, I'm at the point of trying to figure out how to utilize the massive amount of data that we've collected in our company over the years. And it's data that we don't have to go get. We get it. It's part of our day-to-day jobs. Um, the cost per square foot is great, and I think in the back of our minds as estimators, that's always a back check. But if we're looking at things like skin to floor ratio, is this an efficient building? Is that something that we can highlight to our design partners that hey, if you take out this building return and this building return, your skin costs are going to go down to 2%, and you're also going to pick up 0.5% more into your square footage. Um, I think that's valuable when we're talking about a conceptual project where a client comes to us and says, we do a lot of healthcare projects and says, hey, I've got a 150 bed hospital that I'd like to do. How much is that going to cost? Well, we have a pretty good idea of what a hospital should cost on a cost per bed basis. But if we can say, well, you ought to have about 2,800 square feet of building space per bed or so as a range. Maybe that's a midpoint. And don't make me do that math, but let's say that's a 300,000 square foot hospital when that math runs out. Well, now we know a 0.45% skin to floor ratio is a pretty reasonable average. Now we know how much skin's in the building. And if we say, well, a typical hospital in the Atlanta metro area is going to be 60% glass, 40% opaque skin. Now we can start to get really granular on how to give them a fairly detailed conceptual estimate with very limited information. And we can work that backwards too. Like, they say we want 150,000 square feet. How many beds can I get in that? Well, you can get, if you do the math the other way, you can get, 56 to 60 beds. And we look at things like public space in a hospital to beds. Are you high on that? Do you have too much public space? You maybe, but maybe it's a rural hospital and it's part of the community, and they intend to have community meetings there, or the high school dance maybe in a ballroom at the hospital, and it's part of the community. Maybe there's a reason for it, but for us to be able to bring those metrics up and say, hey, you're right in line with your market, or maybe you're a little out of line with your market. Let's bring that in line and move this forward at the conceptual stage before anybody's fallen in love with the design, before any renderings have hit the local newspaper to catch those things. When we have all that data right at our fingertips, is a powerful service to our clients for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes the conceptual and schematical estimate just so much easier. And I mean, I hear, I interview and talk to VPs and directors all the time. They're talking to me about, with this data, you can get within 3 to 5% of the actual cost. I mean, are those realistic numbers, or is that what you're seeing?
Well, I think so, and we pride ourselves on 1 to 2% variability. There's obviously a lot of factors, right? If we assumed a 60% glass, 40% opaque skin building, and it turns out to be a complete curtain wall hospital because this is going to be a showpiece on a campus, then we made a fair and reasonable assumption. The building reasonably exceeded those. So how do you reconcile those things between legitimate scope changes and our program? We spent a lot of time going through and analyzing that. Did we get it right? Did the building grow? Did they say, you know what, we looked at our census data and we think we can add 20 beds to add a floor, half a floor, build out more than we thought we could build out, whatever the case may be. So you got to reconcile those things. But 3 to 5%, yeah, I think you can be within that on a conceptual estimate if you're utilizing your data and utilizing friends in the marketplace. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors who know that market are invaluable. All the trade partners are invaluable, but that early help of just, hey, I just want to run this by you. Does this system make sense? Does this cost make sense for this system? All those things. Yes, I think 3 to 5% is a very reasonable goal.
I like the way you use the electrical mechanical guys because they're the most expensive. But yeah, I know what you mean. And then you mentioned hospitals. Obviously, you guys are massive in the healthcare space. Being able to do that in hospitals when you have that historical data. How do you clean the data? How do you organize the data, aggregate it, and then display it? And then talk to us about the data points that you're looking at.
Yeah, so right now we're in the data collection, and then again, you mentioned it's a passion project for me. That's what it is, side project, sitting, watching Netflix at night. I'll have the laptop out, pulling this stuff out. I've got a Excel sheet, and it's very simple. It lists those things we're looking at, the cost of the structure per square foot, and then we break that down into pounds of rebar. Very typical historical construction matrix. Cost is has a shelf life. We can escalate things, but once you started escalating something, through an economic boom and then down through a COVID slowdown and then a massive inflation, all of a sudden that escalation factor feels really unsafe. So cost is great. Design metrics or building metrics are more important to me. So skin to floor ratio, public space to patient room or unit in a multifamily building or keys in a hotel. How big does my kitchen need to be per hotel room or patient bed? All those things. It's really about driving to a point where I can get a rough design of what I think the building's going to be, and then I can go out and price it with current historic or more recent historical data and current feedback from the marketplace. So I'm looking at a lot of ratios. How much public space do I need? How much skin am I going to have? How much structured parking am I going to have? Looking at a site, what are my likely parking efficiencies? Am I going to be, kind of the holy grail of 325 square feet per car? Or is this thing, got all kinds of weird angles in it and I'm at 440 square feet per car and now it's going to be, much more expensive on a square foot basis. So it's just understanding all those metrics. I pull them out. We're still working backwards through some older projects, but the intention is that when we finish a CD set of projects, so a complete design, or at least as complete as we could hope to get in pre-construction. That's where we're pulling the data out. I think if we're pulling it out any earlier than that, we still don't have a fully baked design, and we're going to have our numbers, those ratios are going to be still in flux and slightly off.
Yeah, I've got a load of senior estimators or pre-con managers shouting at their radio now or their phone saying, what's a complete design? What does that even look like? But that's it. I mean, and that's the beauty of a client being able to sit down with a client and saying, listen, if you provide a complete design for me, I can get within 1-2%. I mean, that must
Yeah.
be for the extra cost to the designers, the architects, the engineering firm. That has to be an unbelievable selling point to be able to say to the client, put more pressure and get me a complete design.
Yeah, and I think it's the a lot of the value comes from convincing our design partners. And again, we do a lot of repeat work with clients, and therefore a lot of repeat work with architects, and we have great relationships with them. But it's convincing them this isn't a gotcha. This isn't me coming to attack your design or become the alpha on the project because I shut down everything you were doing with my fancy Excel spreadsheet. It's about partnership and just making sure let's get this figured out as early as we can. Because you're right. If I have a complete design, I can be within 1 or 2%, but that's not where I separate myself, or we separate ourselves as a general contractor, as an estimating group. It's saying we can take your SDs and be reasonably close on predicting what the 100% CDs are going to look like, and that's where that 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or 3 to 4% variability is really powerful. We should be able to be at 1% or so on a 100% CD set of plans. It's being maybe a little bit off of that 98%, 2% or so variability from SDs is where we really bring our value.
Cool. Love it. Now, this brings me to the wonderful word of artificial intelligence. What excites you? What scares you about artificial intelligence? And what's your thoughts on it in general?
Yeah, I mean we're dipping our toe, as I think a lot of our industry is into it. I think we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what it's capable of. I think there's some fear mongering out there that we're gonna all be replaced, and you're gonna hit an estimate button on a set of documents, and the AI gremlins are gonna kick out an estimate that's 100% perfect. I don't think we're anywhere close to that. Um, what excites me is it's going to free us up to do human things, right? Instead of us sitting around and spending, uh, um, 2 days making rote phone calls, or hey, can you price this for us? Hey, can you price this for us? Over and over, and then another 3 to maybe even 10 days doing manual takeoff, still technology based, but manual involving a human. That's going to free us up from the jump to say, hey, Mr. Drywall Contractor, come in the office and let's sit down for a couple of hours and let's go through how this thing's going to be built. Something doesn't feel right to me. Let's figure this out together. Uh, Ad nauseum times 50 trades. We're going to truly be what we should be doing, which is coordinating the project with the people who are going to build it, spending time figuring out logistics with our field supervision. Um, it's going to take and one of the joys in my life is getting to do some just good old manual takeoff, because I don't get to do it very often anymore. But it is a rote and mundane task, and if we can eliminate that and we can become really project champions who are helping to drive to the right logistics plan, the right project approach, helping to drive to the right mechanical electrical systems, the right access methodology for our skin contractors, then all of a sudden now we are what we say we want to be, which is we are builders. Um, and we're building the job, on sheets of paper and in our brain before it gets built in the field, and that's going to make for overall a better project. I don't think we're close to the estimator being replaced. I think we're just going to be propped up and freed up, and that's a good thing. And we've got to we need to embrace it as an industry, and I think we are embracing it as an industry because it's just another tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
I
it's
think
another tool that we need to utilize.
I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see it. I don't know if we're going to see estimators, pre-con managers using it, but we're going to see a lot of it integrated in the background of all the technology that we use. So we're going to see it. We're not going to see it. It's going to be in around the back, just doing its thing. And you're, as you say, going to be doing the high level stuff with the clients and stuff. And every kind of pre-con estimating tech firm at San Diego, or at Advanced Preconstruction in San Diego on May past, we're talking about it. And that's what they said. They said, listen, hopefully the estimators and pre-con managers are just concentrate on doing what they do. We will take care of the AI side of it.
Yeah, I love that. And one point, jumping back to the tech stack, I walked you through the primary tools we use, and One thing I tell our team a lot, regardless of what our tech stack is today, it's going to be different in 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I don't know why, but somebody's going to merge, somebody's going to get acquired, somebody's going to come out with something better. Unfortunately, somebody's going to fail. Don't certainly don't wish that on anybody, but it's moving fast, and it's moving in a very positive direction. But we got to be nimble. The days of Timberline or MC squared, and maybe if you're really on the cutting edge, you've got on screen are over. We're in a constant evaluation mode, and they're in a constant evolution mode, and we got to do our best to keep up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of merger and acquisitions this year as well. So I like we already saw Bechtel taking over Workpack on the takeoff
Mhm.
side. I think there's going to be more of that as well, and
I
it's
agree.
for the better as well because the integrations will be getting more seamless and the communication between all. And as you said, the historical data will be able to flow from the very beginning right through into operations as well.
Absolutely.
Mm.
100%.
Love it. Well, Ted, this has been amazing. We have discussed some good topics there. There's 4 or 5 more topics that we could have got into, but I know you've got a meeting coming up. So I want to thank you first and foremost, but also want to say if there's anybody out there that's interested in the conversation that we've had, maybe wants to ask a question about AI journey, the historical data journey, maybe about Batson-Cook, the healthcare projects you can do, where's the best place to get you?
Yeah, anybody can connect with me through LinkedIn, or a direct email is fine too. It's TRUSCH at Batson-Cook.com. Love to connect with any industry professionals and share thoughts and ideas, and always up for that. So love to connect with anybody out there that's interested.
Love it. That's what this podcast is about. Let's move forward together. It's the only way we can make our lives a little bit easier. Thanks again, Ted, and I'm sure we'll be in touch very soon.
Thanks, Gareth. Enjoyed it.